Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Butterfly Effect podcast. Today we are ranking the top 10 deaths in DPA Season 1. We're going to have to get a bit of a shifty on because it does seem to be confirmed that Directive 8020 is going to be at Gamescom. So we need to get this done, mate. We need to decide what is the best death in DPA Season 1. Now, I know in previous videos we've done Until Dawn and The Quarry as well. But guys, there's a hell of a lot of deaths to keep in mind, so we're keeping this exclusively to DPA, and we'll probably do a similar video for Until Dawn and The Quarry in the future. But you know how this works, so what we're going to do, we have a top 10, but we each have an honourable mention that we want to kick things off with as well. So mate, I'll throw it over to you. What's your honourable mention?
My honourable mention is the Man of Medan DLC electrocution death. This can happen to a number of people: Julia, Brad, Alex, Conrad, loads of people. But yeah, I don't think we've really had a death by electric shock, and I think it's just the absolute factor of Olsen going in and the gore of it. The way they've fell in, they're right near the end of the game, they're nearly at the home stretch, and then boom, suddenly they get absolutely fried. A little bit wiped off by the fact that their companion can just wipe their face blank, Supermassive Game style, straight afterwards. But yeah, I definitely an honourable mention there, mate.
Sweet as. So as for me, my honourable mention, this one surprised me because as I was going through the deaths, I didn't think that this one would sneak in there, but it did. And for me, it's Dar getting eaten by the bats in House of Ashes. I looked at this one back. Not only is he thrown about like a ragdoll anyway, but when he has that scene when he's just, crawling along the floor, and then there's suddenly all these bats surrounding him, like 5 or 6 of them, making that really eerie clicking noise, and then they just lean over him, and you've got the camera panning away from above, almost like a bird watching the whole thing. I thought it was really, really chilling, and I just couldn't get it out of my mind. So I was like, while it's not strong enough to get into the top 10, I really wanted to give it an honourable mention, so that's what I've done in this in the opening to this video.
Sweet, mate. So otherwise we've pre-discussed 10 and we have no idea what order we're giving them. I know typically we've done the thing where we've done our own 10 and then we've combined it together. This one's a discussion video, so we're gonna have to hash it out and determine what we think the best one is. We've kind of school team leader style picked 5 each, and now we've kind of got to discuss. Now I just want to say before we commence, a load of people will be in the comments saying, oh, you forgot about this death, that death. We have looked at a good majority of the deaths, and it might be that we disagree with our list tomorrow, it might be that we agree with your comments later, but it is a tall order and this is what we've come up with. Right lads, so this is one of your picks. You have opted for Little Hope, Andrew's suicide, mate.
I did, yeah. As a spoiler, this is going to be the only Little Hope death in this top 10. Reason being, to be fair, there are just very strong deaths in other games, but when you think about Little Hope, a lot of the deaths, albeit in a gameplay sense, they're dying. We know in reality that a lot of the characters just aren't dying because they're not real. But this particular one strikes a chord. When you know the story of Little Hope, with the trauma from what happened to the Clark family in the prologue, the whole story is about him overcoming those events and whether he forgives Mary for her involvement or not, and the fact that it can end in such a way that he didn't manage to get over those things and he puts a gun to his head and shoots himself. It's pretty damn dark, so I feel like it had to be one of the 10 in this list, mate. Obviously we've got it in the number 10 slot right now, so maybe we just compare with the next one as to whether it is better or worse than it.
Yeah, for sure. The death certainly, it's quite hard to achieve as well, so if you get it in your blind playthrough, then fair play. But yeah, it's definitely a really chilling, really upsetting death, especially after everything he's gone through. But yes, definitely a worthy mention, mate. Now, the one we have going against it at second, mate, is Charlie's complicit death. I feel like when you play the game, it's fairly obvious that Charlie isn't an accomplice. So, to tie him up seems a bit random to me. But when you do see that there is this death where he comes out and then he's been chucked off, his brains are splattered, and he has the writing in his chest. It is quite haunting, and obviously the game draws a bunch of inspiration from Saw and stuff, and it does strike me like that kind of Saw death. And I think it's more harrowing as well that it's just probably our favourite DPA character as well, mate, that he can have such a haunting death, and it's the reaction of the group as well that kind of make it for me. So it's a very difficult kill to rank because it's so different to Andrew's one that I have a fucking clue where I'd place it above or below, mate. Do you have any thoughts?
No, I mean, we literally have no idea how this list is going to look come the end. I really vouched for this one. Reason being, I mean, obviously the first one obviously has that sentimental sort of meaning to it, as like emotional angle, but so does this one. Like, you think of the context, like, of the character of Charlie, like, I think he's like a single man. His whole purpose is driven about making this documentary. He's very career driven as a result of not having like a romantic life. He brings his team there and it clearly is a trap and things go wrong, and then the team are manipulated into thinking that he's part of it, he's part of the traps, part of the deaths, and then going on top of that, he's killed off camera. So like, you have that moment where Erin obviously says, oh yeah, it's definitely him because of the recording and such, but the fact that then he's then chained up, Dumet clearly comes along, takes him, kills him, this is all off camera, and for me it actually makes it worse, the fact that it's off camera, added to the context as well, that this guy's completely innocent and he's then just been displayed in this very sort of, it's almost like very theatrical, isn't it, the death, the way that you sort of look over the cliff face and he's lying there, complicit written across him, blood everywhere. So it's really difficult to place. Like, I suppose it really does sort of where you sit. I personally think that it's worse than the Andrew one, but that's just me. This one sticks in my mind more for some reason. You know what? We are talking deaths, and I somewhat want to separate the story, and I almost want to look solely at the moment. And one's like a guy shooting himself in the brain, which like is just a staple in like Hollywood and in life, sadly. This one's like a very unique, cool horror like kill. So yeah, I think we put it above Andrew in this one, mate. Next up, we have Charlie dying in the furnace. Now, spoiler alert: there will be a few Charlies. There will be a few devil in me. The game has a lot of cool deaths, mate. Now, I picked this furnace one. Reason being, like, yeah, we've had fire deaths in the game before, like Little Hope with the burning demon. There are a few of them. There's just something haunting about this kill, mate. Whether it's Demet looking through the little, like, sort of, like, peephole and just kind of, like, spying on him as he's just getting burnt to a crisp. The fact that it's got to be one of the worst ways to go as well. Like, you really feel for the guy. But also, like, the thing I mentioned, when it's happening, there's this classical music that's playing in the background, and it's really, like, kind of chilling the way that, like, I don't know, like, this guy's just absolutely dying, and he's just all, like, Demet's just going around almost listening to a bit of classical music, and it kind of mirrors the death in the prologue, where you've got, like, the lovely hotel music, and then, you know, Holmes is just, like, killing the honeymooners. So yeah, like, I don't know, I just got chills from it, mate, and it had to make the list for me. Also, the fact as well that he was almost lured in there by, you know, like, you know, a lot of Charlie's characters all like built around the whole, you know, he wants a cigarette, you know, and the fact that this like animatronic thing pops out and it's holding a lighter, he's in the room, suddenly the door shuts and the guy literally gets cooked alive. You're so right about like the way Dumet looks in, but there's this other shot as well where, like, if Charlie reaches round and he's like, you know, it's sort of like, it's really hard, it's all hard to watch because you can see this guy, like, he's struggling to reach the handle of the door to obviously open, but you can just see Dumet standing there watching him. It's really, really haunting, a really cool death. And when I was going through all the deaths of the game, I was like weighing this one up against, like, You know, when Rachel hits the white phosphorus in House of Ashes and she just burns alive. You've already mentioned like Taylor, like from the Clark family, getting cooked alive, but this one come out on top, and like like with the added sort of, you know, the old time music in there. Again, very theatrical, similar to Charlie's death that we spoke about just now, the complicit one. Very, very well done. But again, where the hell do you put this thing?
It is a tough one. My instincts are telling me to put it higher than Complicit. Complicit's more unique, I'll give it that, but I think the fact that this is on screen, you have the music, the fact that the death is just gnarly. I don't know, I feel like the death's worse, mate.
I'll roll with what you say, because I generally don't know where to...
It boils down to what you look for in a kill, but yeah, like, I think those are good enough reasons to put it above. Next, mate. Now, Charlie's back, and this time he's fell in a meat grinder, and Holmes has butchered him up like mincemeat. Now, obviously, this death can, like... It's a QTE fail. While a lot of the other ones are like a result of the choices, this will be the first one we've got here that is an effective if you fail the QTEs, so maybe you feel hard done by if you ever receive this death. I don't know, it's one of those ones where, yeah, you probably shouldn't have, like, you know, fell in there in the first place, but equally, I don't know, there's just something disgusting about the fact that he's getting absolutely cut up and grinded, and while his legs are, like, mashed up, he's still alive as he sinks further down while he's begging for him to stop. It's kind of again like the fire one but without the music, so I'm already thinking it's 9 or 8, but I'm unsure where, mate.
Really? So I'm thinking 7, and there's one particular reason for it. So like, obviously you got the QTEs. He falls down there. Now, if you watch it, Dumet then comes in and starts up the machine. But then Dumet can then like turn the machine off, and I think he starts to leave or something. And then Charlie shouts out to him like just a load of obscenities, and it's just the coldest kill because Dumet then just like hovers his finger over the button and turns it on again. And then that's when you just have this shot where the camera is completely still and you just see Charlie slowly sink off camera, and then you're getting all like the guts and the blood and everything spraying up. But it's, for me, like the fact that like there was a window of opportunity. If Charlie hadn't have shouted out obscenities to Dumet, if like there was no sort of like interaction there was a window of like an opportunity for him to escape. Whereas with the furnace one, there was like I mean, obviously there's like the great choice, but like in terms of like Dumet, there was zero chance. With this one, there was, and then he just like falls off camera. So like for me, I'm actually looking at 7.
Yeah, so, I'll roll with that. Next, we've got a Man of Medan one. Now, Conrad is the example we have here. But this is, a lot of the Man of Medan kills are interchangeable because they switch places. It's quite a clever game in that aspect. So this kill can be done for all 5 playable characters, Brad, Julia, Alex, and Fliss as well. But this is the cargo door kill, mate. So this is when you're fighting Olsen, and if you fail the QTEs, which a lot of people do, it's not an easy fight. You can get him crushed, and it's pretty gnarly. Like, I always thought they just got crushed, but like the Wikia says that they legit get split in half, mate. That is just gruesome. Whether we have to factor in the QTEs as well, a lot of people do say they feel aggrieved that they thought the button was like press A when you actually had to tap it or hold it. Can't remember which of the two. So a lot of people hate the kill, but when you just break it down as like what the scene gave us, like a guy or girl is literally being split in half, mate, from a door, and it's right at the end of the game during a hero's fight. So yeah, it's kind of an upsetting one as well. So yeah, probably not rock bottom, but probably not beating the meat grinder. I don't know, how about you, mate?
This one's awkward, and it's because of the multiple characters. So like the context can be like really ruthless here. So like if you're thinking about maybe is it Julia? coming up against Olsen, and Alex is the one at the lever. He pulls it, but he could ultimately bring about the death of, you know, his potential fiancée. There's like little angles here. Obviously, if it was like Julia and Conrad, it would be the brother-sister dynamic. I'm not sure if you can get a situation where it's Brad and Alex. Someone might have to correct me in the comments on that score, but you get what I mean. There's like the brother dynamic. So like there is like potential like sentimental things for this. My instinct is that this isn't better than any of Charlie's ones. For me, it's a 9 or 10 job, mate, because I feel like when it happens, obviously it's horrific, you're getting cut in half, but like when you see the character's face, you don't actually, from what I recall, you don't see the body cut in half.
No.
So a lot is left to the imagination. So that's perhaps why it falls down for me, mate. I think it's just whether it falls beneath Andrew committing suicide or not.
Yeah, I'll put it above Andrew committing suicide, because although, yeah, more brutal story-wise, and if you look at the great context, if you're looking at just the kill, which I kind of, like I said, I kind of want to look at, man literally gets split in half. Next up, lad, we have the Erin surgery scene. So this is the one where Erin can get caught, put in the surgery chair. Is it her heart's exposed, lad? And then she has the Don't Be Scared song?
It is, yeah. So this is another one that I vouch for. Again, similar to like the complicit Charlie one. Something that happens off screen. You know, I think it's if you fail something in like that dark room, Dumet clearly takes her, and then this is what you get later on. Absolutely horrific. Again, theatrical in nature. You spin the chair round, dead eyes, hair is messy, heart is exposed. You've got them sort of like the speaker in her mouth, and it's playing like the Don't Be Scared song that she was saying earlier. Contextually, we know that Erin is like the intern, potentially the most vulnerable and shy of the characters, which it shouldn't make it worse, but I think you could say that it does. Yeah, this, for me, this is high-ish up there. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, you know what? You stole the words out of my mouth, mate. Everything you said, spot on. And like I was going to mention as well, the fact that this is the shyest, most innocent character of the lot, and she has the gnarliest death there. Another thing to kind of add on top of that is just the reaction of the group as well. They're genuinely upset, especially if like Jamie had a romance angle going with her. Like, we critiqued Man of Medan and Little Hope a lot for like the expressions just going blank and then not acknowledging a character after they've died, or just like one line of dialogue, job done. I really felt the emotion of the group swinging the chair and crying their eyes out, being really upset seeing the kill. So yeah, honestly, mate, it's a very unique kill as well. The way the heart is still pumping, it's almost like a Hannibal Lecter style of like displaying it as like an art piece. And for that alone, I'm tempted to put it on top so far, mate. Yeah,
I am as well. Even the fact as well, like the camera, when the camera zooms in, like as the heart stops, that it's just really dark, man. It's really, really heavy going stuff. So while obviously it's off screen, it doesn't have the sort of the visual impact of maybe like Charlie's couple beneath. I think it's just the sentimental thing that maybe pulls it through for me.
Yeah, okay, very well, man. We'll place it there. Next up, lad, we have the glass wall trap in The Devil in Me. Now, this is the one I vouched for. Now, it's a tough one because it really depends on what you're basing the rank off of. If you're basing it on how the death comes about, especially if, like, the person with the screwdriver, like, how did we do it, mate? It was that we gave the screwdriver to Jamie because she's the one that went out, and the premonition showed us Jamie dying, but then Kate dies because we pressed the button, because the premonition almost fools you. So it is a bit of a... whether you want to call it harsh or not, that's a whole other can of worms. So that could frustrate you with that this death happened. But take that away and just look at the death alone. It's disgusting. It's brutal. we mentioned the quarry. You've got the constants, like blow head off of the shotgun. Because I edit these clips, I have to look at things frame by frame, so I see like the slow-mo cuts of like how it goes down. With like the quarry constants kill, it's literally like 2 different frames that are blended together. There's this slight snapshot of where you see a head, and then next to her you see a blown up head, and clearly they just like swap shots. This one, they've like animated it so the skull pops. It is gnarly, the way the blood comes out the mouth, the way the skull goes from perfectly figured just to absolute, like, you know, it shatters like glass, and it's really unsettling. And when we have been doing like death edits before, I've had to have this shit on repeat, just constantly looking at like this skull popping, and it's really brutal to look at, mate. So yeah, like this is the one that I vouched for being the top kill when I came in, but I'm kind of like thinking maybe the Aaron surgery one is top, but I think this is like top 2 for me, mate. I don't know like what your take on this kill is.
Oh, for me, it's, you know what, I'm like weighing it up against all of them, right? So like, is it worse than 10 for me? Yes. Is it worse than 9? I'll say yes. I'm even looking at that, if I'm just jumping up to number 6 though. With number 6, it's like I said, with like the context, with like the fact that he had hope, and then Dumet pressed the button again, and then it's like, if you think about that death, his feet are going in first, then it's going up his legs, so like it's slowly happening, whereas maybe this one, while it's horrific, it's more instant in a way, like getting squished and then it's just gone. Going down like into that machine might drag out a little bit longer. Same with the furnace. We're getting into the territory now where it's really tough. I'm looking at maybe 7 or 8 or 9 for this one.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's what it comes down to. It's like it's what you value in the kill, and obviously I'm kind of a horror junkie, so like I am looking at the gore factor, you know, and there is just something really unsettling to me about the popping skull with the blood that just like splatters out. So were you saying 7, 8, mate?
I think so, and I think that's an interesting thing to bring up, though, isn't it? Is that like it's how you look at it. Like for me, don't get me wrong, like gore is certainly a factor, but I think it's almost like where I'm coming from is perhaps like maybe like the context or like the sentimental, emotional, or like the I think just the contextual element is perhaps a fair way to sum it up.
And you could argue the context of this kill is pretty poor if you feel robbed by like the choice. So,
yeah, that's true. If you want to bring the premonition into it, then you feel robbed by it. So
I think maybe because I'd want to put it below. I'd want to put it here. So should we put it here as a compromise?
I think so. Yeah, that sounds fair.
Cool. Next, lad, House of Ashes. This is the Goodbye Son or the Salim abandoned kill. I'll let you kickstart.
Yeah, so those unfamiliar with this death, basically you can have a situation where Salim down in like the sort of, you know, like the cocoon area, he's fought off, like being an absolute champ, he's fought off some vampires with his spear. He's then got back to that elevator only to find that all the others have abandoned him and left him down there, and then the camera just sort of like zooms in on his face. He then mutters to himself, "Goodbye, son." It then cuts to black, and you can then hear like the vampires clearly get to him and kill him. Which again, for me, like if you're going into that sort of sentimental angle for like the death, very, very hard to, you know, watch. And obviously, if you put yourself in Salim's shoes, it must be absolutely terrible. You don't see the death, like, you know, Charlie's one and like Erin's one, but Weirdly though, I don't think that the sentimentality of this one pulls it higher up than some of the few we've got listed at the top there. I don't know what your take is though, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, I'm very much taking the kills at face value, so like it probably doesn't fall high, but it is, like you have to mention the context. And on top of everything you said as well, it's just the fact that a big theme of the game is, what is the quote? The enemy of my enemy is my friend, is it? And this just completely goes against that. You've got the Americans that just straight up abandon him, and he's got a son that he's never going to see. And then it's just the fact as well that, the kill is off screen, but the way you see the vampire bat creep up on him in the background before it cuts, and just the fact he's not going to make it because he's on his knees, he's accepted loss, it is brutal. So probably not one of the higher ones. He's not getting split in half by a door. For me, it's just whether it's above or below the Man of Medan one with Conrad we have there.
I'll say yes. I'd say it slots in number 8.
Okay,
that would be my take on it.
This is one I vouched for. Now it's kind of like maybe a bit of a cheap one, but like I wanted one desperately of a House of Ashes kill where you had the vampire bats killing one of the soldiers. Now there were loads to pick from. There's one where like Balafil or Kurum can absolutely murder these guys in the absolute like horrible ways in the final house on the Eclipse. There's Jason getting thrown in the air and then dropped from a great height where he just becomes like bones and mesh like at the bottom. Ultimately I kind of picked this one where Salim fails some QTEs because the vampire can just grip his face, just slam it like a basketball on the ground and just turn his face to mesh, and it's disgusting. It's absolutely brutal. I think as well, like the context being as well that the first 2 games presented us like monsters which weren't even there, so for us to get a monster which was indeed there but that much stronger than our human counterparts, that it was terrifying. So I had to give this a mention. The downfall of it is that it blends into a lot of the other vampire kills as well from the creatures, and I had to dig to find it. It's certainly not an iconic one that I knew about beforehand. So it probably falls in the lower tier, mate, but certainly a worthy candidate to be in our list.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there, that it sort of gets lost in amongst a lot of other deaths. But having said that, because I've seen it, like you brought this up to me, didn't you? I had my list and then I was like, oh, I've not seen this one, and I saw it, and the way it has its claw around his head, smashes his head, and then when it pulls its claw back, it just rips his face, so like he loses a bit of his head and all his eyes down to his cheeks. Really gnarly. I don't know. Naturally, as you was talking, I was comparing it against like the glass wall trap one, which obviously is not another like head death, if you get what I mean, with like the head popping. So maybe it sits somewhere near there.
Yeah, like I am a fan of the, that was like a top one for me. I'll put it here, because it is brutal when it happens, and to Salim as well, he's such a lovely guy in this case. So okay lad, we have our list. There's just one more entry here. Now the one we've picked, probably an unorthodox one. We've gone for a prologue death in the Honeymooners. I'll let you roll the ball on this one, mate. Why have we picked these guys?
We've picked them because, I mean, you could say it's a little bit of a cheat code because there are technically 2 different deaths here, but I feel like I had to mention it because you give the situation, again, we're talking about context. They've just got married. They're going away together. They've checked in at a hotel. They're ready to spend the rest of their lives together. They've been welcomed by this sort of like, a very welcoming host. They go up to their room, they're having a pillow fight, everything's great. They have no idea the sinister sort of figure that lurks behind the walls of this hotel and what he has built in order to satisfy his dark desires, basically. So she takes a bath, he can then slit her throat, and then start to crawl along the floor. Then, what's his name? What's the guy's name?
Jeff.
Yeah.
He then comes back, and then obviously sees the horror of what's going on. Then gets manipulated into running away into a room which is essentially a gas chamber, but we've almost got a slight carbon copy on like the Charlie death scene of like the furnace, but slightly altered. So he's watching her die, and where she's crawled across the room, she's watching him die. All the while Holmes is just sort of sat there lapping it up, loving it. So really, it is a really, really dark death, especially like obviously as honeymooners. Now, where we put this, I really don't know.
Yeah, because like it is really sadistic, and it's like, you know, Demet Holmes, kind of the same by architect, right? That he's watching them, but there's just something about like the darkness of it, of like they wanted to like you say, end their days and live together, and he's like killing them in front of each other. They're separated by a glass wall, and they're watching each other fade, and it's messed up, man. Like, it's actually horrible, and like I actually think it probably is the weakest prologue, but it does present like a really gnarly, horrible, nasty kill. In two different ways as well. We get a throat slit and like a gas like thing as well. So yeah, I naturally want to say on the lower end, because it's the symbolism that does it more than the kill itself. Like, the kills are fairly generic. So I'm thinking like a 9 or an 8, mate.
Yes, I think so. Mate, I guess there is an argument that you could put it above Charlie, but I feel like because we've not spent a lot of time with these characters, maybe it's not as hard hitting. So I think 8 is the right spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, there we go. We have our list. So basically, mate, what we're saying is that Erin's "Don't Be Scared" song death is the worst death in DPA season 1.
Yeah, and I think it's a legit answer. I think a lot of people will agree with that. I feel like, obviously, there's just so many kills to choose that people... And please do, guys, please comment what we missed, what should have made the list, and what should have been first as well. But yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to revisit this one, and it would definitely be interesting to see if season 2 presents us some similar epic kills.
Yeah, and I think the big thing to take away from this video is, like, what do you prefer? Is it like the pure visual element of the death and like how it happens, or is it like a little bit of that but also the context around it? And to try and judge them two things against one another, it is really difficult. Like Liam said at the top of this, come tomorrow this list could look completely different, you know. So I feel like I'm happy with what it is now, though. It'll be really interesting to see what you guys make on it, what your lists are. Maybe there's some deaths as well that we've not even got that would make your top 10, so definitely tell us what those are as well. And yeah, have you got anything else to add, mate?
Nah, not at all. Just thank you for watching. I'll leave the description for my tier list in the description, so if you guys want to mess about, add your own kills in there, feel free.
Wait, alright guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you in the next one.
Ciao for now, guys.